this is a
Not
horrible
roll.
Supreme Court. Um, I
Honest.
I mean, so we're
It is.
looking. All right, so of course they decided to strike down Roe v. Wade, right? But on top of that, Clarence Thomas put out there that he wants to go after uh, LGBTQ plus rights and contraception. So,
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say anymore about him, as Thomas specifically.
Oh,
He's just basically one of the worst people I've ever, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway. So Clarence Thomas, okay, was infamously accused for, uh, infamously was accused before being confirmed to the court by Anita Hill for sexual harassment, right?
mhm.
Um, but he's been spearheading this attack on women's rights, and although rarely providing an official opinion, he provided a concurring opinion on this Roe v. Wade thing, where he pushes the court to revisit other cases that have been decided that are related to contraception, sex laws, sodomy laws. He wrote that in future cases, we should consider all of this court's substantive due process precedents because any substantive due process decision is demonstrably erroneous. And we have a duty to correct the error established in those precedents. And that's something that Alexandria Ocasio Cortez warned of. I mean, she was saying, hey, they're not just going after abortion, they're going after all of it. They're going after, and like I say, this sexual harasser, is spearheading all of this. So,
Mhm.
what do you guys think about this? What do you think about Roe v. Wade? What do you think about them going after all the LGBTQ rights? You know, what do you think about this court, Robbie?
I did
Ooh.
They've really attacked the American people this week, and it's shameful. I feel for the American people. Each Supreme Court justice, except Clarence Thomas, prior to being sworn in, when they were asked about Roe v. Wade, stated that Roe was a precedent of the U.S. Supreme Court and that it had been reaffirmed so many times that they wouldn't touch it. But well, they clearly lied to you. They clearly lied. Um, and the hypocrisy of it just hurts my brain so much because in on one day they're putting more guns on the streets and making it more accessible, endangering American lives, but the next day they're all about the preservation of life and the fetus. And the hypocrisy really just it hurts. It really hurts, and this is just it's control culture under the guise of morality, and it's sickening. It sickens me even more that some Canadian politicians have applauded this decision. So I think of my daughter, I think of my nieces, I think of my granddaughter, and I mean, I don't wish for any of them to have an abortion, but if they ever found themselves in a situation in life where this was the course of action that they felt was best for them and their lives, I would support them every step of the way, and they should have access to a safe medical procedure. I'm baffled. American people, like Canadians, are looking in and going, WTF? But also recognizing that there is a segment of our population that absolutely supports this decision. Also, it's always been very divisive, but at the end of the day, this is a medical procedure and it needs to be reflected that way. It needs to be viewed that way. The American women, by virtue of this decision, have been relegated to a second-class citizen. And you are breeders in the eyes of the SCOTUS by virtue of this opinion, this decision. It boggles the mind,
Got it.
boggles the mind.
You're the resident lady on the panel today.
Yeah. So I mean, when we saw the leak or we heard about the leak and we covered it, we kind of I mean I felt like this was coming. It's still shocking though, this overturning, but whether you're pro-choice, pro-life, whatever you want to call yourself, all the labels, I think it's just you have to see that now this is impeding on our rights as people to do what we want to do, more specifically women. Um, but I mean, I'm just as like upset about this as anybody who has been fighting for this for a long time. But I think that like I was reading comments and under different articles. You know, there's a million articles going on, but I was reading comments and how people were saying it's just so divisive. I'm sorry. It's just so many thoughts in my head because I just feel like it's so divisive and people think just like with the gun laws thing, it's you're pro this or you're pro that. And I think that you have to like cut through that bullshit and just look at it for what it is. Like that's them, it's our rights. They're taking away our rights. And the next thing is like Neo brought up Clarence Thomas wanting to revisit gay rights, wanting to revisit contraception, same-sex marriage, all of that stuff. And whether you're for it or not, whether it goes against your religious or your own moral grounds or not, it's just look at it for what it is. They're saying that somebody can't do something like that they were born here to want to be able to do. You know what I mean? So take away all of the like theatrics, take away all of what you are believe like strongly about this and just look at it for what it actually the action is. And that is extremely, extremely, extremely upsetting. I'm not surprised, but I'm also I'm kind of nervous about the timeline of events here. Like when it does come to if they are going to actually take away contraception or make it hard for contraception, which is birth control, and same-sex marriage. I don't think I, I don't know. I'm frustrated as hell.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated as hell. I have a lot of feelings, but
I don't like that he's actively going after these things. I don't like that the goal is to go after all of these previous rulings. I like what Mike Winter says. He says he wants to go after all of the substantive due process cases. That includes Loving, which was a substantive due process case. And Loving was the ruling that allowed interracial couples to marry.
yep.
Oh,
And as
I
you
guess he's on
know,
the outs with Ginny.
Clarence Thomas is right, married to a white woman. Um, but it also includes the right to have anal or oral sex. It also includes heterosexual married couples. That's what Mike Winter's saying. And I mean, this is an inherent problem in the Constitution itself, and of course our lawmakers again, is because there's nothing explicit in the like we have the right to bear arms. It's pretty explicit, right? Second Amendment's
Yeah.
very straightforward, unfortunately. Um, but there's nothing explicit saying we have a right to protect and choose what we do to our bodies, to ourselves. I mean, I reread the Constitution in preparation, the entire Constitution, including the amendments, and there's nothing directly saying that we have those rights to control. We have even Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who tried to hang on, so we didn't get to this point. I mean, I really wish she had retired when Obama asked her to. So, but she criticized the decision both before and after she joined the High Court. She said, this talking about Roe, she said that it would have been better to take a more incremental approach to legalize abortion rather than using the ruling in Roe versus Wade to invalidate state anti-abortion laws. She suggested the ruling would have been more durable if it had been based on equal protection clause in the 14th Amendment, meaning that if it had focused on gender equality rather than the right to privacy, which, by the way, the right to privacy is also not explicit in the Constitution. It was extrapolated. What they did is they said that other amendments established a right to privacy. So,
Hmm.
and if you look at the 10th Amendment, right, it says that uh, it's it says that any rights not provided by the Constitution goes to the states and the people, which is what is happening here, right? So The Supreme Court is not necessarily wrong in their ruling. I think they're wrong because it's definitely a political agenda that they're executing. Um, and we inherently have these rights. We know they're human rights, right? These are human rights.
It's a political slash moral agenda, and being good to one another is being ethical. Being moral is when you take a position on a higher authority. So if you use, say, a holy book to have the moral authority somewhere, it doesn't mean that you're right, but you have the moral authority. It this really this is separation of church and state, and it's terrible that it really is at the end of the day, because one political party does have an agenda, not officially, but their proponents, their supporters will say, hey, I'm with them because of these values that are reflected in this party, because they say the right things, and these people are tickled pink right now. It's
So
like even I think it was Congresswoman Mary Miller with Donald Trump called the Supreme Court overturning a victory for white life. Yikes. So her office had to backpedal hard on this, but she said it because, I mean, this is white.
even if it's a Freudian
values
slip,
that are being
it's
reflected, right?
it-
But
it-
these are Christian values that are being reflected in this decision. And I hope that the synagogues will come back hard and declare that this is a violation of their freedom of religion. I really hope that this is going to galvanize people to fight this hard, because I know that like they're rallying to fight against this. Because they have to. They absolutely have to.
and you guys know I'm a staunch. I mean, I'm absolutely pro-choice. I mean, I'm anti-abortion at the same time, but I'm absolutely pro-choice because I believe we should have the right to decide what happens to our bodies. But it comes down to lawmakers. They need to fix the fucking laws. I mean, the founding fathers never considered life existing before an actual live birth, right?
Mm.
I mean, basically, when you come out of the womb, you're born. This is when life started for them. Let's be real.
And this is a period of life where there were more miscarriages, there were more stillbirths, because medically we weren't there.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
were God performed abortions at that time. It wasn't a physician.
Exactly.
Think
And I
about
mean,
that one.
you're making a good point because years ago, um, and this is little known, um, you know, you know, I, you know, I had to deal with um, a child being conceived, and 8 weeks in, I heard a heartbeat. It was fantastic. 2 weeks later, there's no heartbeat. When does life really start? I mean, we're talking about, they're using science, right? It's amazing how these people like to use science to justify what they needed to justify, right? So if you're talking
That's
vaccines, oh no, there's no science to make climate change.
Don't
That
trust the
doesn't make
science.
sense, right?
Don't trust
But
the science.
but now when they want to talk about life starts at blah blah blah, let me show you the science for it. It all makes sense all of a sudden, right? I
Mhm.
mean, where's the life that I conceived? It wasn't viable at that point. How do we know? When do we decide what life is? This isn't about, and
Yeah.
it's a very difficult topic because we're talking about you know life, a new life, birth, and all that stuff, and outside of maybe assisted abortion, right? It's probably one of the more difficult things to kind of deal with. Is part of, but this is about controlling what happens to your body. And it's not just
Oh
about
yes.
women. I'm so tired about this issue being about abortion. It's not what this is about. It's
no,
not even
It's
just
about
about
controlling
women's
women.
rights. It's not
no.
even just about that. I need to be able to control what happens to my body. I mean, think about it. If I want to, if I want to go and get boobies and cut off my penis, I should have the right to do that. You know, I'm just saying I should have that right. If I
Yeah,
want
you're right.
to.
You could do very true. I
I
agree.
I mean, we need to be able to allow people. It'd be different if I were affecting other people, right? If of course, there should definitely be laws if I go out to kill somebody. There definitely be laws if I go out and attack somebody, or if I cut somebody else's balls off and without their permission, or you know,
Well, so then, should you be licensed to use your penis? Should this be gradual licensing? Until you know how to use it responsibly, we're going to give you a vasectomy. It's reversible. We've stored your boys, but we have graduated licensing for driving. It takes 2 years to demonstrate that you're a competent driver. Well, you know what? You're starting to have these sexual thoughts. Let's put the training wheels on you, shall we? This is graduated. But it's yeah, no.
It's
I mean,
that's
I'm trying to make light because this is just it is so devastating. But
uh,
yeah.
like, when they're coming after the bans on contraception and everything, it's like, well, you know what? If you're going to push that agenda, are you also going to ban Viagra? Because if pregnancy is God's will, then so is your flaccid penis.
good point. I mean, and the other thing, when we talk about rights, I mean, this ruling opens up the reality that this could be like China, where we can have forced sterilizations because you don't have a right to decide what happens to your body. We should be, we should have the right. States should also have the right to enact laws that allow you to snip men who do something wrong, that or whatever it is. I mean, all I'm saying is by not having the right to control your own medical decisions, what happens to you and your body, um, that's a problem. You know, I mean, it's being this the abortion issue is a part of the problem. Is a major issue, obviously, but it's the bigger problem is being able to control what happens to you. What you
Mhm.
want to do. I mean, if people don't like it, fuck them. You don't have to like
Yeah.
it. It's me. It's my choices.
And I think that we need to acknowledge that there are many large employers in the United States, many employers that do not stand by Roe v. Wade. There's a lot of companies that have stepped up and have said that they're going to cover abortion travel and expenses for their employees. A lot of because Bungie Games, for example, cited that they've gone to a digital first platform, which means you can work anywhere in the country and you're an employee of Bungie. So they're enshrining your rights within their corporate structure. So the Bungie, Starbucks, Tesla, Yelp, Airbnb, Netflix, Patagonia, DoorDash, PayPal, JP Morgan Chase, Levi Strauss and Company, Dick's Sporting Goods, Disney, Meta, Condé Nast, Zillow, Lyft, Uber, BuzzFeed, and Reddit. So those are just a few of the big players who have stepped up right away and said, this is bullshit. Don't worry, we're going to help you. So absolutely, I hope that more people will step up this way. And if you live in a trigger state, if you operate in a state that has trigger laws that have come into effect, then move your base of operations. Pull your business out of these red states that are going to be putting these bans on your sisters, your wives, your daughters, your cousin, like all that's
Yeah.
one effective
Like,
way to do it.
All right, John. Let me give you the
Don't many
last
of them.
comment before I get to these last online comments.
as we see, this is only the first, or not the first, but this is not. It's not going to end here. Basically, I don't believe so. I think that our rights are our rights are being taken from us. I'm not being dramatic. I know that not a lot of people agree with this because a lot of people associate pro-choice with people who want to kill babies. That's not what we want to do. But I do feel like I have no words. I mean, I think there's gonna be a civil war. I know you guys always
It
see me
does
as a
feel
little
like it.
bit
I'm not even gonna lie to you. It does feel like it.
like it's like they're trickling down to something. It just is the I feel it anxiously. Um,
And there's actually been talk about that. I think I read some article where someone, I forget, I think it was Texas, someone in Texas was trying to secede from the union, and I think they were going to put in something to try to start doing that. So
Mhm.
I think we're leading down that path and heading down. I agree with you, Johnny. Let me get to these
let's
comments online before we close this out. It's okay. Uh, abortion. Jeanette Brown says abortion is a medical procedure that changes women's lives, and yet without men, no woman needs an abortion ever. I say we go to Listrada. No abortion, no sex. Um,
Mm.
she also says a life form that may or may not develop into a healthy human should not have more rights than a living, breathing human. And that's what my point was. She actually
Yeah.
succinctly put into words what I was saying. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's not alive yet, And so, uh, you know, to put that life ahead of the life that's here, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
Especially when a child completely changes the course of a woman's life and men can and do walk away. That was from Jeanette
Yes.
Brown. Mike Winter says, I think 2 states give the unfertilized eggs more rights than women who carry them. I agree with you. I mean, it's really anyway.
It's messed
They go
up. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so we only had one main topic today, basically talking about the SCOTUS. So, is this truth, lies? The SCOTUS,
Truth,
Supreme Court,
lies,
truth,
shenanigans.
lies, or shenanigans?
All kinds of bullshit, and just my brain hurts. No.
So I'm just so frustrated with this. This kind of George Fournier. This kind of issue should not be left to a referendum, not justices. Bullshit is right. You gotta. I mean,
very dis-
I would like to see lawmakers step up. I think we need to get to the polls again. We have to, and it can't. It's not really about the president. This has to be about our representatives and um, our local representatives, local offices. We really need the midterms are going to be so important to get out and vote. Because the only people that can really make these laws is to do an amendment, you need 2/3 vote, 66% of the vote, and in the Senate it doesn't exist. And if the midterms don't work out, it's not going to exist in the House either. All right, we're gonna have to